Let us explore the Buddha nature, the secret to finding inner peace. So I'm going to talk while editing, which is kind of silly, isn't it? Let's see here. Okay. Let's hit the text, the font button, and get things up to 36. A reoccurring phrase in both Mahayana you gotta put some hyphens there so the newbies can pronounce it. Don't want to be elitist. A reoccurring phrase in both Mahayana as well as tantric literature is the Tathagata or Buddha nature. I'm going to go back here. And let's add this to the brand new dictionary for this computer. This charming Iron Age turn of phrase hinted that enlightenment is our birthright and easily attained without requiring heroic effort or noble sacrifice. Let's see here. All right. 1, 2, 3, and let's hit 4. Let's try that. I'm not sure if that's going to work. I don't think it will, but let's try anyway. Let's hit 12 and copy and delete and see if that fits. That's the test. Okay, cool. Sounds great. Sign me up. But the mystery remains, how is one to realize it? One of the many advantages to living in this age is that medical professionals have access to sophisticated imaging technology of which the ancients could have never conceived. Let's hit paste and delete 2 and make sure that fits. It does. Functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI studies, have revealed that it is our sympathetic nervous system. I don't think that's going to fit. That is the seat of mindfulness, or sati. Let's go back and open things up and continue. Our parasympathetic nervous system is the seat of meditation. That is the seat of meditation or samadhi. And our anterior cingulate gyrus, that is the seat of our loving kindness or metta. Oopsie, wrong button. It is these structures that comprise our Buddha nature, but a villain lurks. Just as the Buddha's foil was his foolish cousin Devadatta, so is the team of our prefrontal cortex, the seat of concentration and analysis. And our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression, to the mechanism of our Buddha nature. Paste and delete 2 and continue. Okay, I stopped reading. I apologize for that. Let's continue. It is these three structures that comprise our Buddha nature, but a villain lurks. Just as the Buddha's foil was his foolish cousin Devadatta, so too is the team of our prefrontal cortex, the seat of concentration and analysis. And our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression, the opponent to the mechanism of our Buddha nature. Just as a surgeon's scalpel can be used to take lives as well as save them, so too could both the prefrontal cortex as well as the amygdala be either used or abused. The solution to this dilemma is twofold. The easy method to strike the match of enlightenment that is already in our grasp, is to allow our sympathetic nervous system to mindfully do its thing during our inhalations, and to allow our parasympathetic nervous system. Whoops, that was an error. Oh my goodness. Wrong button. Okay, here we go. To meditatively do its thing during our exhalations. Thus, sitting in formal mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so. We set space to live from our empathetic anterior cingulate gyrus effortlessly and automatically. A delightful fringe benefit of this is the manner in which our choices, utterances, and deeds begin to flow. From the effortless effort of love-centered spontaneity, the key to the sustainable use of our analytical prefrontal cortex, as well as our primal amygdala. This is why the Buddha taught mindfulness and meditation. So, quick like a bunny, we're going to actually now shift gears and get ready to actually meditate after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I could become your nerdy, neurospicy guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friend, to meditate like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. There we go. Welcome to the first of 5 mindful crease counting meditations. One moment. This is an excellent opportunity to review the 3 pillars of Bengali crease counting. Pillar number 1. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We come now to the second pillar. Multiply this by 4 sets, and you've got 46 inhalations. We could keep track of those 4 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of 12 inhalations each. We come now to our third pillar, where we work with both hands simultaneously. Let us now rest the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger, upon the tip of our left little finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce in the lower region and the bladder region of our lower abdomen. Quick review. Here's how we practice mindfulness. Here's the most efficient way to practice mindfulness. During each inhalation, let's try this again. Each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation. We are wired to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception. You know, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Now let's explore the most efficient way to practice meditation. Each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are similarly wired to physically relax and mentally release that which we noticed during our previous inhalation. Together, let us practice this right now. Aha, a question. Splendid. Let's take a look at what the question has to say. Or perhaps ask. I'm going to tap button 8. So Caitlin, good morning Caitlin. Caitlin wrote, Lama Jigme, after this session, could you direct us to the neuroscience researcher reference in your Dharma talk? Nope. I'm not a neuroscientist. Ain't got no time for that. The test of my claims is not whether or not you possess the science literacy to pour through the material. The test of my teachings is this. When you apply these techniques, what's the result you get? If you applied my techniques for about 5 minutes every 12 hours or so for 7 consecutive days, do you experience an increase of peace and love or a decrease of peace and love? If you won't test my claims in the laboratory of your body and mind, I'm probably not the teacher for you. Thank you for your time. Oops, that's the wrong button. Let's try again. Okay, here we go. Please chant with me. Oops, I forgot to set the, what's it called? I forgot to set up the chanting notation, which I shall do momentarily. Okay, one moment. Insert symbol. Insert accents. Insert. Oops, okay. And one more. Bold and then insert accents. Fabulous. So as you can tell, I've only put the chanting notation on the first page. The hope is that you'll get the basic idea, the basic pattern, that we're chanting in monotone with the exception of the first syllable and the second to the last syllable of each set of lines. Here we go. A reoccurring phrase in both Mahayana as well as Tantric literature is the Tathagata Garbha or Buddha nature. This charming Iron Age turner phrase hinted that enlightenment is our birthright and easily attained, without requiring heroic effort or noble sacrifice. Sounds great, sign me up. But the mystery remains, I was one to realize it. Now, I think this will chant better if I arrange it thusly. Sounds great on me, but the mystery remains, I was one to realize it. One of the many advantages to living in this age of medical... One of the many advantages to living in this age is that medical professionals have access to sophisticated imaging technology of which the ancients could have never conceived. Functional magnetic resonance imaging or fMRI studies have revealed that it is our sympathetic nervous system that is the seat of mindfulness society. Our parasympathetic nervous system that is the seat of meditation or samadhi. And our anterior cingulate gyrus that is the seat of our loving kindness or metta. It is these three structures that comprise our Buddha nature, but a villain lurks. Just as the Buddha's foil was his foolish cousin Devadatta, so too is the team of our prefrontal cortex the seat of concentration and analysis, and our amygdala the seat of anxiety and aggression. Let's see, let's capitalize this for the sake of consistency. The opponent to the mechanism of all Buddha nature. Just as a surgeon's scalpel can be used to take lives as well as save them, so too could both the prefrontal cortex as well as the amygdala be either used or abused. The solution to this dilemma is twofold. The easy method to strike the match of enlightenment already in our grasp is to allow our sympathetic nervous system to mindfully do its thing during our inhalations, and to let our parasympathetic nervous system to meditatively do its thing during our exhalations. Thus sitting informal mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so waits its space to live for more empathetic anterior cingulate gyrus effortlessly and automatically. A delightful fringe benefit of this is the manner in which our choices, utterances, and deeds begin to flow from the effortless effort of love-centered spontaneity, the key to the sustainable use of our analytical prefrontal cortex as well as our primal amygdala. This is why the Buddha taught mindfulness and meditation. So, quick like a bunny, I'm tapping this button here. And I'm tapping button 8, seeing what interesting things are going on in the chat window. So Jay wrote, "Good morning, Lama Jigme, from the best place for the blue-eyed Buddhist, the Crisis Center for Disabled Veterans in my city, making progress." I'm not sure that is entirely, there we go. Of course, practice is the best test of Buddhist teachings. I just want to geek out. Yes, so anybody who wants to has spare time can do a YouTube search on those organelles I mentioned, on those structures I mentioned. They can do a YouTube search made typically by neuroscientists or students of neuroscience on those subjects, spelling it out. But that doesn't matter. Being able to label every region of the brain and spell it correctly doesn't matter. All that matters are the results we get when we consistently practice as easily as 5 minutes every 12 hours. Sitting on your tuchus, silently and mentally reciting the words this and ease for 5 minutes. You can even set a timer on your phone. Doing this every 12 hours for a week is a low-risk test. And if someone won't do that, no amount of information is going to convince them, because they're using skepticism not as a tool, but as a dodge. The greatest use of your skepticism is to put my teachings to the test in the crucible of your own body. Let's move forward. Let's move forward. I'm going to tap button 9. I'm going to try to tap button 9. Oh, my new keyboard is vexing. So let's continue. Caitlin, I too am a geek. I respect your enthusiasm to geek out, but so here's the thing. I don't know you from Ave. You might be science literate. If that's the case, we should collaborate on something. I have a pal who is science literate. I'm not science literate, and he's like, maybe you heard of him. His name is he goes by the handle of Mike the Vegan or Mick the Vegan, and he can pour through scientific studies. He has a master's degree in public health, and he knows how to pour through the studies. He's like a younger version of Dr. Greer. He can pour through the studies and sift through, the statistical analysis and all that good juicy stuff. With the amount of brain damage I have, I don't have the wherewithal for such heavy lifting. And so I've had to take a really lowbrow approach. As someone trying merely to survive, um, ADHD, autism, fetal alcohol exposure, birth trauma brain damage, CPTSD, let's some other things. Let's see, dysautonomia, chronic fatigue syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos, I'm probably pronouncing that, POTS, mast cell activation. As someone who's gone through the coffee grinder of traditional HMO structured medicine, where people are just quick to write you off and not give you treatments and not give you tests, and I had to study neuroscience as a form of self-defense. When I began decades ago to study each school of meditation, Taoist, Hindu, Buddhist, Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana, the whole Megillah, the whole Shmir, I noticed that when I enthusiastically followed certain instructions, I got terrible results. And then I looked around at my peers and I saw the same thing. And I looked up and saw my teacher and I saw the same thing. Then certain instructions and certain techniques created certain results, and other techniques created other results. And the only difference was that I found that the neurodivergent folk are more quick to apply the scientific method and say, I'm doing this action, I'm getting this result, I don't want this result, I want that result, so let's do this action and notice what results that gives us. So I found that neurotypicals are less likely to do that, and they're more enthusiastic to just blindly follow authority figures. I tried doing that, I got terrible results, and so I tried something different. And the only way I found to survive my shit ton of disabilities and to keep from having psychotic breaks was to work with these hypotheses that I regularly and rigorously tested in the laboratory of my own body and mind, and I found that they not only work for neurodivergence, they work for neurotypicals as well. Now, I'm a big old nerdy neurodivergent, which means despite years of being forced to mask badly, most neurotypicals are really put off by me because I come across, because when neurotypicals deal with neurodivergence, they experience something called the uncanny valley, where they don't quite seem human, because they're not. They're a different neurotype. They're a different, arguably, subspecies. A necessary one, but a different one. So I've said all that to say this. To me, this isn't blind dogma that I've swallowed, that I've gotten on my knees and filleted. This is simply things I found that work for a broken but ambitious person such as myself, and for other folk. I found that everybody who applies these techniques gets the same results. And yes, I did some low-level research. I don't even know if you can call it research. I just did a bunch of Google searches, looking for regions that correlated different regions of the brain and how they worked and interfaced and cooperated and competed. Additionally, something that was really eye-opening was this. When I was studying under the tender mercies of the fundamentalists, the people that I like to refer to as, let me find the really good visual aid. Let's see, visual aid. Let's try this one. When I was studying Buddhism under the tutelage of Yang's religious patriarchy, those who were not only rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel, but they thought it was splendid and they wanted you to be that way too, and they would move heaven and earth to prevent you from committing the sin of being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. And so when I practice this in this way, in the effort and in the spirit of experimentation, I found it got me really cranky. And so these people, bless their hearts, they kept saying, well, you just need to concentrate more. You just need to concentrate on love and analyze the benefits of love. And this concentration and this analysis will be great for me to poop on. And when we exhaust our prefrontal cortex, we trigger our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression. And so that's the great irony, that the gradual approach of shamatha and vipassana take us further from the goal. But, and this is crazy, oh, come on now. This is it? Here we go. When we rely on the passive path, not the active path, but the passive path, the yin path of cooperating fully with our sympathetic nervous system, not to actively concentrate, but instead to practice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly during our inhalation and during our exhalation, to cooperate fully with our parasympathetic nervous system and physically relax and mentally release. Not only, in the words of Samuel Jackson, not only does our amygdala calm the fuck down, but our anterior cingulate gyrus perks up like a poodle at the sound of kibble hitting his bowl. Oh yeah, it makes, if our anterior cingulate gyrus had a tail, it would wag. So, I remember one time, this is going back, long time ago. Oh my goodness, probably about 20 years ago. Maybe longer, hearing about famous fMRI study of a prominent Kagyu teacher, a teacher who taught both Mahamudra and Dzogchen. And so he just blessed out during his fMRI study, and they noticed great activation, great activity in his anterior cingulate gyrus, not from practicing concentration, not from practicing shamatha or vipassana or samatha and vipassana, depending on whether you speak Sanskrit or Pali or have a bilateral slur or lisp. Anyway, they found that the parts that lit up when practicing Sutra Mahamudra or Dzogchen or Ati Yoga was this area here. And that set me down the rabbit hole. And if there's such a good thing as karma, I spent mine on two things: surviving my disabilities without becoming a complete monster, and receiving teachings. I had the good fortune to receive teachings from every sect. And I was the annoying guy. I was the, what's the good Yiddish word for it? I was the nudnik. I was the guy grabbing the teacher by the lapels and shaking wisdom out of him. I'm here to learn. I will learn, or you will perish. That was my basic attitude, metaphorically speaking, of course. And so I had the very good fortune to receive from numerous teachers, from numerous sects, the exact same instruction. That the key to visceral wisdom is not analysis. It's physical relaxation and mental release. I received these teachings from Theravadan teachers and from Dzogchen teachers and from Mahamudra teachers. I received these teachings from my former wife, bless her heart, was half Bengali, and so she taught me how to cook these delicious North Indian meals. And whenever there would be a traveling Lama come to town, I would bribe him with tales of bacon bhatta if he would just teach me Dharma. And that's how I learned a shit ton. And so I'm so grateful to the late my late teachers who have taught me these things. Now I found short videos, because of ADHD, short videos by neurological students and by neuroscientists on YouTube that guided my journey. I was shocked when I learned that the nexus of our parasympathetic, of our, what's the word I'm looking for? Not sympathetic, parasympathetic. The overarching term is, it'll come to me. But was the spinal cord itself, not the actual cerebral cortex, but that the nexus of the sympathetic nervous system was the middle third of our spinal cord, and the nexus of our parasympathetic nervous system was the lower third and the upper third. I was shocked. I was not expecting that. I thought it would be somewhere down here in the basal ganglia. Totally shocked. But my pattern is when I'm forced to choose between preconception and new information, I test the new information. And if it makes sense viscerally in the crucible of my body and mind, and also intellectually, academically, then I go with the new information. So the way I've taught 4 years ago is different than when I teach now, because I'm pretty much a STEM groupie. Because I have that flavor of ADHD where my memory keeps resetting, which makes the mnemonics necessary for higher math pretty much an impossibility, I can watch STEM videos on YouTube. So to me, that's leisure activity. So you can go down the rabbit hole. You can search things like neuroscience of concentration, neuroscience of analysis, neuroscience of relaxation, neuroscience of noticing. And you'll come across the same information, but it's worthless. Just because it shows up on an fMRI, it has to be applied. If we don't apply this, we're lost. So, for instance, language is a tricky thing. And you can always tell a con man or a fool because they said, well, my definition of blah, 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 and you just know what's going to follow is sewage. I don't care what your definition, sir. I want to know what Random House's definition. I want to know what the dictionary says. So a lot of people for the last 1,000 years, a lot of people have been labeling concentration as mindfulness. One of my late teachers was famous for doing that. Or should I say infamous for doing that. When I lived at his monastery, the monks were monsters. They were more than ignorant and superstitious. They were cruel. And the test of the teachings is spontaneous kindness. The more we concentrate, the more cranky we become. The more we practice mindfulness and release, the more we vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, fleetingly notice and then physically relax and mentally release, the more loving we are, the more intellectually nimble we become, if I might paraphrase Uncle Carl Sagan. Of course, he's not my literal uncle, but every nerd in the 70s worshipped before the altar of the cosmos. So, let's see here. So pilgrimage, I hope I just explained what you said. It actually does exist thanks to fMRIs, and this is all, you can just do your own, sit there with Google. Google's your friend, YouTube's your friend. There are neuroscientists who have made shit tons of videos already correlating, already exploring the wonders of our medial prefrontal cortex, of our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, of our amygdala, and its ramifications. They've already done this research so you won't have to. They've already explored how the gosh, I want to look it up real quick. So that vocabulary word is eating at me. So let me quickly look something up to pictures. Let's go to neuroscience. And subsets. Oh, derp. Yes, okay. The sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system fit under the conceptual umbrella of the autonomic nervous system. Okay, anywho. So this stuff is already proven. This is non-controversial. You can find it. You can find college professors who've already created videos and put them on YouTube. So the question is not this. The question is not, must I master neuroscience in order to meditate? No. In the penultimate passage of the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha promised that one could master his path in as little as 7 days. Now, last time I checked, the Buddha was not schlepping about an fMRI machine with him. That would have been quite a sight. He wasn't doing that. He said, this is what works. Do this and you'll get these results. Now that didn't stop people from teaching the opposite of what the Buddha did, but teaching it in his name. So let's explore that for a second. So, the Buddha was all about yin spiritual matriarchy, being flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. The Buddha's foolish cousin Devadatta was all about being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, cruel. Since the Neolithic Revolution, the majority of humans have been conditioned by the majority of cultures to be this way and to forsake being, to be that way and to forsake being this way. So people raised to be this way are drawn to positions of power and prestige. And once they get them, once they bite and claw and scratch their way into those positions of power, they typically bring this sensibility with them. We see this in every human institution. The religious, the secular, the vocational, the recreational, wherever there are humans, the majority, according to Sturgeon's law, 90% are going to act this way. They're going to act like they keep their head in a warm, dark, smelly place 90% of the time. And this was explored delightfully in the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? I think that came out about 20 years ago. So, there's nothing new under the sun. The majority of humans have been shitheads since the Neolithic Revolution. So even when the Buddha walked the earth, people were quick to twist his teachings. In fact, one time there was a division in the Sangha, and when the Buddha came to settle it, they said, "We don't want your help. Go spend the rainy season retreat elsewhere." And for the first time in his career, in his teaching career, he spent the rainy season in the jungle with 2 assistants, as opposed to teaching for the duration of the rainy season retreat. So even the Buddha was brutally rejected by people who claimed to be his acolytes. So there are always going to be people who are so rigid and so controlling that they can't see anything beyond concentration and analysis. And they have in the fine tradition of in the grotesque tradition of Oedipus, have metaphorically gouged out their own eyes, deliberately blinding themselves to the results of their own actions. That seems appalling to me, probably appalling to you if you're drawn to me. But that is the current state of affairs. The Buddha taught full enlightenment could be accomplished in as little as 7 days. But when you hear someone from religious patriarchy talk, they'll say, oh, the length of time to become a Buddha is enormous. It could take you 7 lifetimes. It could take you the length of time equal to the birth and death of 3 universes. The Buddha didn't teach that. He said, dude, you can do this in a week. A week. There are people who delight in a quick and easy path. There are people who delight in a long, difficult, arduous path. Come with us, walk the Buddha's path of the lazy bastard. Don't be like the Big Lebowski. Be like the dude. Don't be like Mace Windu. Oh, who is the guy with 2 brains, the tall head? I forgot his name. But don't be like that guy. Be like Qui-Gon Jinn. So, having said that, I'd like to get back to practice. Caitlin wrote something. Let's see here. I'm going over here real quick. I'm going to hit button 8. And let's see what's going on. So, pilgrimage. Caitlin Hammer. That's a great name. You sound like a superhero, Caitlin. Do you fight crime at night? So anyway, Caitlin wrote, excuse my chin. Caitlin, I gotta put this over here. Let's try this. Caitlin wrote, got it. Your experience is really valuable. Thanks for sharing. I'm far from neurotypical myself. I pursued the physical sciences because I wanted to be just like your Uncle Carl is amazing, is he not? One time I wrote a commentary to the Tao Te Ching, and I kept writing it in different voices. And at one point I wrote deliberately, in, like, for instance, sometimes I would write in the voice of, oh, who's the guy with the glasses from Don't Forget to Be Awesome, who made his fortune writing teen literature? So sometimes I wrote in his voice, sometimes I wrote in Neil Gaiman's voice, sometimes I wrote in Uncle Carl's voice, sometimes I write in my own voice. So yeah, Uncle Carl's great. Let's continue. The Pilgrimage. I think there are some books that connect neuroscience and Buddhism. Not read them. You don't need them. All you need to do is experiment with these techniques and be done with it. This time next week, you can become a Buddha. What does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean you'll be entertained. It doesn't mean you're going to walk through walls. It does not mean you are going to fart thunderbolts. It simply means you're going to be so good at the Buddha's Eightfold Path that you could practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. Caitlin wrote again, I read one that recounted that the Lama in the fMRI study about 20 years ago too. I've wanted to hear more ever since. Complex PTSD. I think it is a condition derived from multiple traumas. It looks like it does. I wouldn't recommend it. So PTSD is a bad thing happened to you one time. CPTSD is a traumatic thing happened to you many times. So for someone in an abusive marriage, or a child in an abusive home, or a child who's run through the foster system, who goes from bad home to bad home to bad home to bad home to bad home, there's only so much haranguings or physical beatings or sexual assaults you can endure. If PTSD changes the central nervous system, How much more so with CPTSD? It turns it into origami, not in the fun way. So let's see here. Okay, let's move forward. I've been jabbering a lot. Our hour's almost gone, so quick like a bunny. Let's do some meditation. What, wrong button. Let's see. Let's go over here. Let's tap button 9. Cowabunga. Okay, I'm going to... Let's see here. Quick like a bunny. Okay, here we go. Please rest the great knuckle at the base of your right ring finger upon the tip of your left ring finger, palms up in your lap. Let's meditate. Let's rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tip of its left middle finger, palms up in our lap. Oops. Oh, those quick twitch muscles. Now we're going to do something a little, talking about origami. We're going to rest the tip of each of our 4 left fingers upon the great knuckle of each of our right fingers. And then invert this, palms up, in our lap. We shall now perform our final meditation this morning. Let's rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap. My friends, you have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned, oopsie, come on now. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even support this channel. In approximately 9 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.